Damn, that is crispy. What you're just looking at, folks, was a catastrophic failure of a connection inside of a junction box on a circuit that was feeding a 48 amp ChargePoint Home Flex electric vehicle charger. And it was at a home in Connecticut. The owner, Matt, reported that he went into the garage and just happened to hear some hissing, looked up at the junction box. There was smoke coming out of it. He realized he had a problem. Luckily, he had a fire extinguisher on hand, and by the time he opened the box, it was on fire. He was able to put out the fire before anything really catastrophic happened to his home. So I'm going to be traveling up to Matt's home later today, and we're going to fix his problem in my next episode of Recharge Rescue. So in my Recharge Rescue video series, I travel to the homes of electric vehicle owners that have had some sort of a catastrophic failure for their electric vehicle charging equipment. It could be the charger, it could be something with the circuit, as it appears in this case, a junction box failure, could be a NEMA 1450 outlet that melted, but something in their electric vehicle charging equipment circuit failed catastrophically. And I'll go to the house, I'll bring a licensed electrician from the Q-Merit Network, Electric Vehicle Charging Equipment Installation Pros, will diagnose the problem, will fix everything, give the customer a new charger, and head back home. So later today, I'm going to be leaving. I'm actually driving up to Connecticut. It's the first time that I've done a Recharge Rescue that I could drive to. My past episodes, I always had to get on a plane and fly to a different state, but Connecticut is close to New Jersey. I live in northern New Jersey, and this home is about 150 miles from my house, so that's drivable. I'm going to hop in my Equinox EV, drive through New York up into Connecticut, and we're going to fix Matt's problem. Matt's the owner of the home. He has two electric vehicles, a Tesla Model S Plaid and also a Rivian R1S. He typically charges the Rivian R1S from the ChargePoint Home Flex because he has another charger in his garage, a Tesla wall connector, and he typically will charge his Model S from the wall connector and the Rivian from the ChargePoint Home Flex. That's where the catastrophic failure was. We're going to figure out what happened here, fix everything in his home, and get Matt charging his Rivian R1S again. With that said, I got about a 4-hour drive ahead of me. I hate driving up through Connecticut. The Merrick Parkway is a disaster, but that's the route that I'll be taking, and we'll check in when I'm at Matt's house, and we'll take a look at what went wrong. All right, so I'm up here at Matt's house in Middletown, Connecticut. Matt, hey. Good to meet you.
Thanks for coming.
So we're standing in front of where the problem occurred. There was a ChargePoint Home Flex right here being powered through this junction box above us. The junction box is what failed and melted. So Matt, what happened? How did you know you had a problem?
Yeah, so I had the charger recently rewired. I had a new circuit run directly from the main panel on a 100 amp circuit, and then up to the junction box, and then it went down to the charger here. It's only a 48 amp charger for the ChargePoint, but I wanted it to be ready in the future for if I wanted to change it out for an 80 amp charger. So I had it all done, licensed, licensed, inspected with a licensed electrician, supposedly knew how to install EV chargers and everything. So I was trying to do it the right way. And they ran it up here to this junction box, but I happened to come home one day, and maybe 3-4 weeks after installation, I came home one day, and just maybe a half hour that my car was charging, the other car, and I came home and heard a hissing noise. I looked over and I saw flames shooting out of the side. You can see in the top left here, I saw the flames literally shooting out of the side of the box, and thankfully I had a fire extinguisher nearby. I grabbed that, I hit it with the fire extinguisher, and the flames went out. I also have a smoke detector, so that started going off, and but obviously pretty concerned. I shut the power off, and yeah, thankfully it was just stroke of luck that I happened to be in the garage at the time it first started, because 5-10 minutes this whole plastic box and probably half the wall could have been on fire.
Yeah, that was amazing that you happened to come in right when it was just starting. The smoke alarm hadn't even gone off yet, but it went off while you were here putting it out. Yeah, because
of the smoke, because of the fire extinguisher makes like a lot of powder smoke, and eventually, but yeah, it would have been another 5 or 10 minutes before this thing went off, even with the smoke detector.
And you did everything right. You hired a licensed electrician, you pulled a permit, it was inspected, and it still failed.
Passed everything, passed inspection.
I mean, it just goes to show you how with electric car charging, it's different than anything else. The duty cycle, that's called, if anything along that line isn't done correctly,
yep.
There's a potential for catastrophic failure, and this could have been catastrophic.
Oh, yeah.
You know, luckily you didn't have anything leaning against the box where it melted through, because that would have combusted, would have went up, and now the fire department's involved. So, all right, the electrician's going to be pulling up any minute. We're going to get you fixed up here and get you charging again.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it.
State of Charge is powered by Qmerit, North America's premier installer of electric vehicle charging equipment. After I've helped you decide which charger to buy, follow the link in the description of my videos and have Qmerit install it. And if you do follow that link, Qmerit will waive the $150 installation deposit. But this is an exclusive offer for State of Charge followers. So in order to get that offer, you must follow the link in the description of my videos. Okay, so I'm here with Ed West from West Electric. Ed is the Qmerit contractor that Qmerit specifically told me to contact in this area when I told them there was a problem in Middletown.
Yeah.
Middletown, you know. They said, Ed's the guy. So Ed, what do we have here? This is the point of failure that the homeowner is concerned about.
Yeah, it's a very common item. We see it a lot. We've done over 2,500 installs. So we've come across this with multiple customers that done their own work. Your biggest issue here, they came in with the right size conductors, but they downsized them to number 8s. So
this is number 8 wire.
Yeah.
On a 48 amp charger.
Yeah, 60 amp breaker.
Yeah.
Usually it's a 6.2. That's still an issue. 6.2 Romex is not good for 48
You
amp
need
charge.
number 6 THHN
or MC cable.
Or MC cable, yeah.
Yep.
So this is number 8. That's, I mean, and you know, it's hard to tell the difference. I thought it looked a little small, but I wasn't 100% sure. You knew immediately that was number 6.
Yeah, so we looked at it. We came in, we matched it up with our number 6, and it's definitely smaller. Mm-hmm. So as you follow this wire back up to the box, goes to the connection, you can see this is the right size wire. It's actually oversized. And then it burnt off right where the 8 was making connections.
Yeah.
So we do not know if these were torqued properly, but the work here that we saw did look good. So I'm assuming they were. So I think the only issue was the lower gauge wire.
Yeah.
So it should be a simple fix. Drew's gonna replace the melted box, put in new burn desplices. We're gonna torque them down. We'll mark them so that we know
that they're torqued. Yeah. You put lines in them to know that they were torqued properly. One of the questions that I had was, I know some of these connectors are low quality connectors that aren't meant for aluminum and copper to be used in the same connector, but some of them are, and they have a marking on them to tell you they are. Were these the right ones that they used?
Looking at it, I would say yes. It's Burndy brand. It's a good brand.
Yep. And it says the ALCU.
Yeah.
That means it can aluminum, copper, or ALCO or U? Isn't that how you tell?
ALCU.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that means it's made for both wires, I think?
Yep.
Yeah, so it was the right connectors. I think it was the wire using number 8.
I don't know if it was a mistake or just an oops, or that's what they had in the van that day, but we got to be sure. We do every single install the same way. We always use a 6.2 MC or we use the number 6 THHN, even if we're not doing 60 amps, because somebody might increase it in the future.
And the crazy thing is, this was only in use for 3 weeks. Like, that's how quickly, if you use the wrong wire or if you have a bad connection, you don't torque it properly, that's all it takes. And he almost had a fire here. Okay, so this is only half the story here. This is what I called you to fix, because this was the problem. And when I do these recharge rescue episodes, I fix the customer's charging problem. But when Ed came out a few days ago and did a site assessment, he came back with me with some bad news. He wasn't happy with some other things in the house and didn't want to, well, wouldn't just fix this and leave other outstanding safety issues. So we agreed to fix everything.
Yeah.
Maybe talk a little bit about the other problems that we're going to fix today.
So the biggest issue, these wires were rated for an 80 amp charger. Homeowner wants to do an 80 amp charger in the future. So it was still on a 100 amp breaker. If it was on a 60, it most likely would have tripped the breaker before all this melted. So we're going to install the 60 amp breaker. Also, the house is a 200 amp service with 2 EV chargers. He's got another one on the other side of the garage.
Which I'm charging my Equinox that I drove here with right now, the Tesla charger.
Yep.
But he's got 2 chargers, and
most customers we sell them, they can't even get one without load management.
and he has other things going on here too.
He's got geothermal, he's got a heat pump, he's got a heat strip, he's got a pool. So once these 2 EV chargers are running, the heat pumps turn on.
Way over his limit
his
on a
breaker.
200 amp breaker. Way over. Nobody did a load calculation that did work in this house. I mean, Matt probably had a few different electricians come and do different things, and none of them put it on their shoulders to say, let me see if the house can handle this load, because you're way over. So how are we going to solve that problem?
We're going to change out his charger and put in the Emporia Pro. So it comes with built-in load management.
Yep.
So what that's going to do, it's going to sense the amount of power coming into his main panel, and when it starts getting into an unsafe level, it's going to slow the speed of the charger. So instead of just turning it off, he might go from 48 to 40 to 36, but it'll continue to charge.
Yeah, and I want to give Emporia a shout out. We reached out to Emporia, told them the situation here, asked them if they would donate a charger, and they agreed to. So we got the charger, helped to bring the price of this recharge repair down a little bit. I do this out of pocket, and I always agree to, just fix the charging, but now we've got other things that we have to pay for. And thank you, Emporia, for donating the charger with the intelligent load management.
Yeah. It's the right way to go.
Yeah.
We talk to customers, and to give them an estimate, they'll say, well, 2 other contractors said nothing about it. I said, well, sorry, we can't.
Yeah.
We can't do against code. We can't go against our safety morals.
Yeah.
Pay the extra little bit of money.
No.
And do it the right
That's
way.
why you hire a pro like West Electric, who is a Qumeric contractor in this area. And another thing that's interesting, I'm here in the garage talking to Matt, and all of a sudden I turn around and you're backed up like a couple feet from me, and I didn't even know you were here. Why is your van so quiet?
We just picked up the brand new GM BrightDrop, so it's the biggest van you could possibly get. It's all-wheel drive, full electric.
So you're all in on the electrification thing.
We're gonna do it. We got to do it right.
Yeah, and like you said, this is your specialty. I mean, you've installed how many? I know you mentioned it, but
A little over 2,500.
Over 2,500 EV. That's the type of contractor you want for your EV charging technology, and even all like real modern electrification technology, solar, battery backup, which Matt also has here. You want somebody who's done it literally thousands of times, because they don't make this mistake. They don't use the number 8 wire that they just happen to have in their van because it's getting to the end of the day and they don't want to go to a supply house, even though there is a supply house really close to here. I mean, there's no excuse. He's got a supply house like across the street practically.
Friday afternoon is Friday afternoon.
Yeah, that's it. You want to go home. This is completely inexcusable. Number 8 Romex on a 48 amp hardwired charger is ridiculous. So, all right, that's what we're going to do. Why don't you guys get to work, and then we'll have a little chat once everything's done.
You got it. We're on it.
And when Ed said we're on it, he meant his man Drew was on it, because Drew did all the work on this job. He removed the burn junction box and 8-gauge wire and replaced it with a metal box and pulled a new 6-gauge wire to feed the Emporia Pro charger. At the service panel, he removed the 100 amp breaker and replaced it with a proper 60 amp breaker. And he also installed the Emporia View equipment for load management to make sure that Matt's panel wasn't being overloaded even when he was charging both EVs at once. All right, so I'm here with Drew. We're all done. Drew's the technician for West Electric that actually did all the work. Ed was just here to supervise, but so you did all the work. Give us a quick overview. What did we do here today?
Well, today we pretty much just changed the brake route. We made sure it was fused correctly at 60 amps. We also cleaned up the panel a little bit. We added some surge protection, made sure all the grounding was up to code. That's the biggest thing, is making sure grounding bonding is all set and that the wire's properly sized towards a breaker. Out here, we swapped this box for a metal enclosure, and the last one was just completely fried and melted. We replaced the wires that are coming down to the Emporia Pro charger. The previous wires were only a number 8. It's a little on the, it's too small for that, for 48 amps. So we upsized those to number 6 to make sure that there won't be any more melting of wires. And besides that, we just kind of cleaned everything up today.
Yeah, it's troubling to me that that was inspected with number 8 wire feeding a 60 amp circuit. It actually was a 100 amp circuit. There was a 100 amp breaker on that, and they had number 8 wire going to the thing. So it's a little troubling that that got approved, but these things happen. I see them time and time again. So, you know, unfortunately, you've got to double, triple check everything, and you got to make sure you get an installer like West Electric here that really specializes in electric vehicle charging equipment. These guys, you know, don't make mistakes. I won't say don't. Everybody could make a mistake, but it's rare that, you know, a company that's so experienced with EV charging would use like a wrong wire or not torque everything. I watched you. You had your torque wrench out. All the connections were torqued to the proper amount. And, you know, Matt should be good to go here. So thank you for coming and doing this. Everything looks great, nice and clean. And hopefully Matt will have many years of trouble-free charging.
Yeah, he should be good to go.
All right, so I'm here with Matt now. Matt, we're all done. Number 1, are you happy with what we did?
Absolutely, yeah, this is great.
So what did you learn anything from this?
You know, I learned that just because you get inspected, use the licensed electrician, which I did. You know, I tried to do everything the right way, and had a licensed electrician. I had it inspected. I thought I was doing it correctly, but just because of those things doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be done correctly for an EV charger. So it's important to make sure that whoever you're hiring knows what they're doing, is experienced with electric vehicles, and, you know, has the experience and is going to do things right, especially with high amperage devices like an EV charger, pushing 48 amps. I'd also say just some of the safety precautions that I did have in here, you know, we're probably really glad I have them in retrospect. The smoke detectors that I have in the garage, I have a fire extinguisher nearby. And those things, you know, when I did have the fire, really made it, you know, an issue that could have been a lot larger, was able to be cut off, you know, before it became a larger event. So yeah, that was good to have.
The thing is, you know, like you said, you did everything right. You hired a licensed electrician, pulled permits. This electric vehicle industry, charging electric vehicles, is different than what electricians have been doing for decades. The duty cycle, the amount of energy getting pulled through these and through the connections is greater than anything that we've really used before, because it's a continuous load. You know, it's 4, 5, 6, 7 hours charging at 48 amps. There's nothing else in your house that's going to pull that much. Even central air conditioning is going to pull like half the amperage.
Right.
So it's putting a strain on all the connections that we haven't seen before. That's why we see the NEMA 1450 outlet failures. They were fine for decades, NEMA 1450 outlets. When you were using it for an electric range or an electric clothes dryer, they didn't melt. Now they're all melting because of the duty cycle.
Right.
This connection failed in 3 weeks. And so that wouldn't have happened if it was powering something else, even though it maybe wasn't torqued properly and it was obviously the wrong wire. Number 8 Romex for a 48 amp charger is, you know, is completely undersized.
Relatively simple mistake that somebody, you know, electrician made, or simple, you know, maybe he didn't want to bother, or whatever the case. I'm not sure, but
that's why I urge people hire not just an electrician, but one that specializes in EV charging equipment. That you know, says, look, we've installed thousands of these. This is what we do. Could they make a mistake? Sure. A lot less likely to make a mistake, because that's what their bread and butter is. You know, I was talking to Ed off camera about this, and he was like, you know, we love installing EV chargers, and that's our specialty, and we do it right, and that's why I brought him in to do this, because I knew this wasn't a simple issue. Right. I knew that you had other things going on just from talking to you. You have so many things going on here with solar and you know, geothermal and battery backup, and I knew this wasn't going to be a cut and dry case. And when Ed first came and looked at it, he was like, I see multiple issues. We have to correct that. And that's why we went for the Emporia Pro, which manages your load. You were way over your load calc, but now you're all set up. And the only thing left to do is, why don't we pull up your Model S and make sure this thing works.
sounds good.
I got you plugged in.
All right.
Let's wait for that little green light to go on. I hear the Emporia clicking.
I heard it click.
Green light, we're charging.
Looks like we're on.
We're charging your car. You're all set up. I'm gonna hop in the Equinox and head home. I'm only about 150 miles. I might be able to make it to Jersey before rush hour traffic.
Wow.
This only took about 3 hours, three and a half hours, which is a pretty quick job considering it was a bunch of work. You know, and listen, years of trouble-free charging, I hope. I think we got you set up fine. I don't think you're gonna have any issues.
I think I'll be good for a while. I really appreciate it, and can't thank you enough again, you know, for coming out and paying for this and taking care of me. And it's nice to, you know, I think everybody's come in and done one little piece at a time, and it's nice to have you and West Electric come in and just kind of do a remediation of the whole situation, you know, not just the charger, but
I think that's the problem with the load calculation. You had a bunch of different contractors doing different things, and nobody owned everything. Everybody just came and did their own thing, and nobody wanted to look at the other work or the potential problem with adding and stacking things, but somebody should have. And I know Ed immediately looked at it, and like when I called him, all I wanted him to do was fix this. But he was like, no, we're not going to touch the house unless we can figure out a way to deal with the load that he's over his load calc. So I'm glad we got you going. Best of luck, safe charging with your family. I don't think you're going to have any problems with this.
Perfect. Thanks again.
All right, so I'm back home in the State of Charge garage now, and we'll do the post-mortem analysis. Here's the junction box here. So you can see this side here, burned pretty bad. That lines up with the side of the junction box here. The connection must have been leaning up against this side, the one that failed, and that's where it completely melted through. You know, if by some chance there's some kind of catastrophic failure in Matt's new box, it's a metal box, it'll contain the firemore. I mean, things can happen. The connector could fail. There could be some sort of an issue. As we know, the duty cycle of electric vehicle charging is so tough that, you know, if there's a problem with one of the connectors, it could possibly fail, but at least you won't get the box melting like this. It should contain the problem inside the box. So here's the number 8 Romex that was pulled from this junction box through the wall and into the back of the charge point home flex. Again, undersized wire. You can't use number 8 wire on a hardwired 48 amp charger, and that's what failed. For sure, that's what failed. You can see the wires were all burned there, because I have the 3 connectors in there. 2 of them are fine, and these are the right connectors to use. These are a good quality brand, and they're also made to have aluminum and copper in the same connection. So some connectors aren't. These are stamped for that. Here's the one that failed. The plastic is completely melted off of it. There's nothing to show, just the terminal block that's inside this. And it's hard for you to see, but the aluminum side is fine. There's almost no melting there. Nothing happened on that end. On the copper side, there's no more wire because it melted completely through. And when I examine it, I can see they over-torqued this connection. This wire is crushed all the way down, and there's only a little bit of copper squeezed at the bottom of the connection. If you over-torque a wire, you can mash it all the way down so much that it's no longer the gauge that it's supposed to be. This was undersized to begin with at 8 gauge. They mashed it down so much, the only wire is only like 1 millimeter thick. So that's why it melted so quickly. This failed in 3 weeks. So if this was torqued properly, the 8 gauge probably would have held up for a few months at least, you know, before it failed. It would eventually fail, but because it was over torqued and undersized wire, it only lasted 3 weeks. So that's the problem there for sure. We had 2 issues. It was undersized wire, it was over torqued, it wasn't torqued properly, and the fact that it had a 100 amp breaker. If it was on a 60 amp breaker like it was supposed to be, it's possible the breaker would have tripped. But it could have also happened that the fire would have started before the breaker trip. We don't know that for sure. But now I know the circuit's on a 60 amp breaker. It has the proper 6 gauge wire, not even 6 gauge Romex, 6 gauge THHN in that metal jacket. And this isn't going to happen at Matt's house again. I mean, this is, you know, Matt's lucky. You know, I know I mentioned it earlier, but the guy's super lucky that he happened to go in the garage when this event was occurring. You know, he could have easily been asleep. He mentioned to me that they sleep above the garage. That's a bedroom. So, you know, at the very least, this would have completely melted and burned itself out. But it also could have caught a wall or something. I noticed he was lucky nothing was leaning against this. If he had something leaning against us, like a broom or something, you know, or a rake or something hanging on the corner, and it was wood, that could have ignited and went right up into the ceiling pretty quickly. So he had done everything right, licensed electrician, pulled permits, and everything was still done wrong. And that's why I do this video series, to alert people that it's really important that you take electric vehicle charging equipment installation seriously, and why I've always been advocating for years of having a professional electrician that specifies in electric vehicle charging equipment do all your work. Now, I know any licensed electrician should be able to do this, just like any inspector should catch a problem, but things fall through the cracks. And you know, if you know your electrician and you know that they are competent with this stuff, go for it. But, you know, if you're just calling somebody out of a phone book or, you know, online, and you don't know, and they say, oh yeah, I installed chargers, I'd ask them, well, how many, you know, do you do this regularly every day? I mean, you know, Ed's company specializes in EV charging equipment. He's installed thousands of them. That's the guy I want installing stuff in my house. And when he went to Matt's house, as I talked about in the video, he immediately said to me, I don't even know if I want to do this, because I'm not just going to fix his junction box, because that's all I originally contracted him to do, just fix the circuit that was problem. He said, you know, the load calculations are way over. We can't leave this house in the condition it's in. And that's why we said, well, why don't we contact Emporia? We were originally going to continue to use this Charge Point Home Flex, because there was nothing wrong with the charger. I was just going to rewire it, put the right wire in and everything. But once we saw how much stuff he has in his panel there, and he's way over, you know, we had to do something with load management. And the Emporia Pro is a great unit to do that. There's other units out there, but that's probably my favorite selection as far as intelligent load management for a house, and it's what I recommend people use. All right, well, that's all we have here today for Recharge Rescue, Middletown, Connecticut. I'm sure there's going to be another one out there somewhere. If you know somebody, or if you ever have a problem with your electric vehicle charging equipment, you have some type of a catastrophic failure, please reach out to me here on State of Charge. Leave a comment on this video, and maybe you'll be the subject of the next Recharge Rescue here on State of Charge. Listen, if this is your first time here at State of Charge, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming electric vehicle news and reviews, and of course, my Recharge Rescue series. Thanks for watching.